This over here is the MacBook Pro M5 Pro, and this over here is the upgraded version of the MacBook Pro M5 Pro. Now, is the $200 upgrade actually worth it? Because now we don't get any RAM upgrade or any storage upgrade. All we get is more CPU cores and GPU cores. But is that actually worth it? Let's find out. I don't know about you, but I hate paying for cloud subscriptions. Especially if you're an Apple user, I'm sure you can relate to the expensive storage. If you're a creator, you already know how your workflow demands more and more storage. And that's why 5 years ago, I created my own cloud, and it has never failed me once. I have been using ASUS the Locustor 4 and 6, and this is what we use daily. All of the 7 years of YouTube business are living on these NAS drives. It turned out not to be just cheaper than cloud storage, but also so many more features, faster, and so much more storage. Whether you're looking to store your precious memories, important documents, your video or photo creative projects, back up your phone regularly overnight while you're sleeping, having a NAS drive that you can access locally and anywhere around the world has been a game changer for me. Depending on your needs, if you want to get started, I would highly recommend the newest version of this NAS, like the Locustor 4 Gen 2 Plus, which now features dual 5GB Ethernet ports. If you've got bigger needs, then the Locustor 6 Gen 2 Plus or higher. The bigger the number, the more drive bays. If you need a super fast flash NAS to have the best performance, then check out the FlashStore Gen 2 series with up to dual 10GB Ethernet and Ryzen CPUs. There is not a product that I find easier to recommend because it's not just something I am using, but something that has not failed me once in the past 5 years. Check out ASUS NAS and drives in the video description below. Now, when choosing to upgrade these M5 Pro chips, MacBook Pros, these are both 14-inch. Apple's giving you a little bit more options this time around. You can keep the same chip and then just upgrade the RAM. This current one has only 24 gigabytes. Well, both of them have 24 gigabytes, but you can upgrade it to more. 48 gigabytes on the base model. But then if you upgrade the CPU or the M5 Pro chip to the 18 core and 20 core GPU, then you can actually upgrade the RAM even further. And that just shows why the M5 is more configurable for Apple, because they can separate the GPU, CPU cores, and then the RAM for the rest of it. Previously, they had to kind of slap and upgrade you all together, but now you've got more options. If you don't need that much CPU, GPU power, but you need more RAM, well, now you can do that. By the way, it's unified memory, not just RAM. So it's for GPU as well as CPU. So if you need 64 gigabytes of RAM, then that extra $600 is only possible if you already upgrade to the base model. And then the 64 gigabyte RAM upgrade actually costs you $800. But what about the very, very base then? By the way, this is just an iceberg of our benchmark database. If you'd like to see more, sign up to our newsletter over there, and then you'll get access to all of our laptop database, especially the Mac laptops, because what we're working on right now is all MacBook Pros compared from this generation and last generation. So if you'd like to see all of that, sign up for that. What I wanted to test is the power consumption between these two devices, because I wanted to know if the laptop is pushing the same amount of power through it, or is the lower CPU, GPU core variant actually more efficient, which means you get better battery life with it. So looking at the peak power on CPU and GPU, as well as the sustained on a workload that just saturates the whole chip. And what we can see is the CPU peak on the upgraded version is going from about 70 watts to 80 watts, which is about 14% increase in peak. And in terms of sustained power, the 18 cores require more power, and it's 52 watts sustained compared to 49 watts sustained. And when we're looking at GPU, the GPU is a lot more power efficient. The GPU is exactly the same on both of them. I don't see any difference whether you're running 16 cores or 20 cores, it seems exactly the same. So what that tells us is that the base version of the MacBook Pro is actually better on battery life because there's less power going through that. But bear in mind that in your workload, if you need a lot of job done, then the upgraded version one actually gets the job done faster, which kind of balances the workload, unless The upgraded version is not very different in terms of the CPU GPU power from the base model, and that's exactly what we're going to check out now. So looking at Cinebench R26, which is the CPU based benchmark, we can see that the single core, whether 15 cores or 18 cores, not a big difference. But multi-core performance, going from 15 cores to 18 cores, we're getting about 15% increase. Now that is quite a big thing. In case you're not familiar with it, on PC, we have that type of performance increase between different generations, but now you can get that kind of just upgraded version. In Geekbench 6, which is again same CPU test, we can see that the single core is slightly slower on the upgraded version, but it's basically within margin of error, and the multi-core score is 8.8% faster. So not as much as we saw on Cinebench R26, but still faster. But looking at the GPU performance from 16 cores to 20 cores, we can see that in Geekbench 6 iGPU, the OpenCL is 16.1% faster and Metal score is 13.7% faster. So the upgraded version, the extra 4 cores do give quite a bit of performance. In AI workloads, we can see that the GPU increase, so this is a GPU based AI workload, is 9.8% faster in the single, half is 7.8 and quantized 7.6% faster. So between 7 to 10% faster on the upgraded GPU scores. In Photoshop, and this is Geekbench for Photoshop, I can see barely any difference whatsoever. And that makes kind of sense because it's very single-threaded CPU workload, and because the single-thread performance is the same, it doesn't really make that big of a difference, and I can't really see any difference whatsoever. The upgraded version is slightly faster in overall average of multiple benchmarks, but you're not going to see that in your actual workloads. But moving on to Lightroom Classic, things completely suddenly change. And this is one of those workloads where the CPU and GPU workload kind of combines together, because the system can use CPU and GPU, both of them at the same time. And look at the results. When upgrading the CPU and GPU, we can see 11 to 17.8% increase in Lightroom Classic. So if you're a photo editor in Lightroom Classic, then the upgraded version is quite a big increase. In fact, it kind of starts to make sense, even a linear increase about the pricing, which I'll talk about in a minute. Canon standard score is 25.4% faster, which is pretty insane. This so far is the biggest increase in an actual workload, but that's not the full story. Let's keep going. In video editing, in Premiere Pro, we can see that the extended and standard overall scores about 5 to 6.7% faster, the overall scores. The highest difference we can see is in interframe standard scores, which is the likes of ProRes, or when you're working with ProRes, then that can be up to 10% faster, which is quite a bit, but not quite as big as I would have hoped for, because here we're really using the CPU and GPU as well, but not quite as much as on Lightroom Classic apparently. Let's move on to After Effects, and here I'm basically seeing exactly very similar performance on both of them, whether you upgrade your M5 Pro or not. The interesting thing here is that the super cores that Apple's got on the CPU and even the neural engines on the GPU don't seem to be fully utilized for some of the workloads, and Adobe After Effects is one of those examples where you can see 3D standard score is 8 and 8.2. That is just ridiculous score, which means it's not fully doing the workload what it's supposed to do, and we have to wait for an update from Adobe or from Apple to release the update. This is the latest version of Adobe After Effects available, by the way. Moving on to DaVinci Resolve, which usually sees very good optimization between both of these devices, and we can see that the upgraded version of the M5 Pro is between 5 to 6.6% faster. And that is fascinating because in Premiere Pro we saw a bit of a bigger increase, and in some of the photo editing applications we saw even bigger increase. And some of the scores here, like the RAW, is 13.7% faster. So it does seem to be faster on the newer one, but not as much as you might think. Moving on to 3D rendering and Redshift in particular, we can see that the upgraded GPU with 20 cores is about 7.8% faster. So GPU performance alone, I'm seeing roughly between 7 to 10% faster depending on your application. Now stay tuned for our Blender benchmark application, because when we're comparing all of the MacBook Pros in a video coming out very, very soon, then I'm adding more from Blender as well, so you'll get that as well. Now let's talk about the pricing. The upgrade is going to cost you $200, and that $200 is roughly about 10% increase, because the laptop costs $2,200 to $2,400. And depending what you're doing, that upgrade is actually worth it. Just look at those benchmarks. If you're in 3D, for example, or GPU benchmarks, then it's not quite as linear and we're not getting as much increase in terms of the GPU. But if you're doing the likes of Adobe Lightroom Classic or even Premiere Pro, we're starting to see quite an interesting increase in there. So if you're deciding which one to pick up, check out my links in the description below, because you should be getting them cheaper than what Apple offers you from their website. Now, if you like these types of videos and you'd like to support us, because these are very expensive videos to make, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that follow on Instagram as well. Congratulations! If you've reached this part of the video, you're in the top 13% of people's attention graph. And there's more than 50% chance that you seeing this means you're not subscribed. So consider subscribing, hitting that bell icon, liking the video. It would mean a world to us. If you'd like to get detailed access to our internal benchmark database of CPUs, GPUs, SSDs, and so on for creators, then may I invite you to sign up to our newsletter, where we send out relevant information a couple of times a month when there is information. I'm not interested in flooding your inbox. This is when there is good information to share for your creative workflow. Then we'll send those emails out. And also you'll get the most exclusive access to some of the behind the scenes, perhaps even giveaways. So scan that QR code or link in the description below. If you've got any urgent questions to me personally, you can always reach out on Minect. I'll always get back to my messages. If you're looking for a new hoodie, may I recommend this one. This is not just any cheap random hoodie. This is a high quality hoodie that you can get. And when purchasing this, we get a small little kickback to help us build what we're building here. My passion is to help creators choose the best tech for their workflow and help them save some money in the process. This is Tech Notice, and if you've reached this part of the video, you have been upgraded to the top 5% of the people who ever see this part. And now YouTube thinks that you'll like this video, and if you haven't subscribed, you can do it on this side. Thanks very much, guys, for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.